Okay, so we are live and in session once again. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the Frustrated Healer podcast. We are on episode 13, and we are asking today the question of, are there too many games? Kind of an easy yes, isn't it? Okay, end of story. Hey. Anyway, let me just give a quick shout out to early birds in the chat. We got Victor, Vicky Bro, Chris, and Kat. Nice, comfy, cozy little group of folks we got here today. Yeah. So, I guess the reason why I decided to even ask this question in the first place is like, you know, that was the best episode so far. It's like, are there too many games? Like, it is a simple answer, right? It's like, yeah, of course, there's way too many games. But it's like, you gotta also think, like, why is that a problem? Or is it a problem that there are too many games? I don't know. Do you guys think it's a problem? Personally, I think it's not necessarily a problem, because it's not as if every single game under the sun is a massive beacon of quality entertainment, you know? So, it's just kinda how it is, right? Can't sleep but need to sleep, so you're just dropping by. Alright, Lux. No problem. More people know how to make games, learning how is easier and tools are easier to come by. Yeah, definitely. And it's not necessarily that it's a problem, but there are certain aspects about it that make it a little problematic, shall we say. It's tough if it's your job to keep up with them. Oh yeah. But it was like, right, too many games, yes. Too many good games, debatable. Very good. That's a great idea too. Yeah. Because, you know, to me, it's like we knew about more games back then. What I mean is, when there weren't as many games as there were today, right? Because right now, if you ask the regular person, right, even non-gamers, the most common games that they'll know of are just the biggest names. You got your Minecraft, Fortnite, your League of Legends, your Pokemon, you know. Arguably League of Legends, arguably Apex. But, you know, Minecraft, Fortnite, Pokemon, undoubtedly. They're gigantic household brand names at this point. Huh? Let's see. I like the discussion we have here. I'm gonna read some of your responses, right? So it's like, some of you guys are saying it's a loaded question. More games could mean good things for content. Opens up the possibility of finding hidden gems. But the bad thing is there are so many bad games that try following a trend. Lutz says there might not be too many games, but oversaturation of genres make it seem that way. Chris says the game industry mimics the history of film. But just faster. We are at the end of the second corporate period equal to the mid-60s. Right. And hello, Kla. First time checking this version. Nice. I hope you enjoy it. Just do this, we do the podcast every couple of weeks or so. Just to talk about certain things in the gaming industry. Just to kind of change it up a little bit too, you know? But like, back then, right? The PS1 era. Let's think back to the PS1 era. It feels like people were more likely to know about games even if they weren't very big gamers, or if they were just casual gamers. They would have at least heard of Final Fantasy, especially Final Fantasy VII. Was the most known one. Most people may have heard of Metal Gear Solid, Legend of Zelda. A lot of Nintendo games are definitely up there. But there was also this likelihood that if you were a gamer of the time, there was a likelihood that a more obscure game would be recognized too. You know, there were your hidden gems in the era of like, this is from PS1, huh? Like, you got your Jersey Devils, you got your Klonoa, Vagrant Story for the JRPG fans, Gundam Battle Assault, which is a fighting game with Gundams that should not be moving at the speed that they are, which is really, really fun. Siphon Filter for the FPS fans, with the single most overpowered broken weapon that I have ever used in any FPS game. It was called a taser, okay? This is just a really fun little story here. So Siphon Filter had my absolute favorite ridiculous gun. It was called a taser, okay? But it wasn't just like a melee taser, you know, not like a stun gun like that. It was it was this, like, it was a taser that would fire a really long range wire. Okay, the range on the thing was insane. It would fly a ridiculous distance with really good accuracy, because of course on console you didn't have a lot of good auto aim. It would just lock on, you fire it, you fire it, it sticks to the guy, and he goes, and you just get, and if you zap him for too long, he literally ignites, and I'm like, this is absolute insanity. You know? One of these days, maybe I'll show you guys a clip of that. The PS1 was made in the 90s. PS1 release date. Let's look it up then. PlayStation 1 came out in 94. 94 in Japan. December 1994, and then worldwide release in 95. Yeah. So, well, I was 2 years old. Yeah. Oh Lord, I was 2 years old. Siphon Filter and Gran Turismo were your PS1 games. You were a handheld kid. Ah, yeah. There were a lot of great ports on the Game Boy for sure. Wonder here. You were, oh, you had N64 first. Cool. Very cool. Heyo, HPP. We're just talking about how, you know, just how many games there are now. Did you guys know there was also this crazy gem? I kid you not. This had a strange cult following. There was a game on the PS1 that was legitimately called LSD Dream Emulator. Yeah. It's real. And it was absolutely just it was a trip. LSD Dream Emulator was apparently what yeah, even back then they were cooking. The whole concept of that obscure gem on the PS1, it wasn't a great game, don't get me wrong, but it was just the concept of it. Essentially, it was trying to emulate what you would see or what you would experience if you were high on LSD. And he even made multiple LSD games, yeah. So most of them are like, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. It was a walking simulator. Back before walking simulators were even a thing. But the things you were seeing were just, whoa. YT is not cooperating with you? That's unfortunate, HPP. Alrighty. Hope you get that fixed, or I hope it fixes itself soon enough. That is a dang shame. Looks like the EU crew. The EU crew is having a tough time with YT recently. Not sure what it is. Oh, hello, Nico. Regional issues are still happening. Yeah. But now, right, I'm thinking about it. I looked it up on a list. Essentially, these are rough approximations of just how many games there are these days, on each console. These are approximations, not exact numbers. So, for example, the Game Boy Advance, they had about 1,000 games each. The N64 had a more limited library, but that felt definitely more like quality over quantity. Only had about almost around 400 games, less than 400. The NES had about 700. I know the N64 was its own beast. SNES had about 1,500. But I guess, even if it wasn't exactly quality over quantity, but the N64, the few games that were good were really, really, really good. Unfortunately, it kind of ended up being a bit of a footnote in the history of gaming. The PS1 had about 2,400 games. PS2 had about 2,500. Those games. But it kind of feels like that still sounds like a reasonable number, all things considered, right? Sorry. And then, right? These are the things on console. And then I decided to look it up. On Steam, okay, as of 2021, as of 2 years ago, there are about 50,000 games on Steam. 50,000! What? That is insane! That is absolutely crazy! Considering that the other consoles had 4 digits. Right? 4 digits. This one has 50,000. And we were already touching on it earlier. Chris, I think you were the one who mentioned that, as more people are learning to use more accessible tools, game development things, right? Unity, exactly. Unity, Unreal, those two in particular. My goodness. Well, let's not even think about the mobile games industry. Yeah. You remember when you were only a kid, your mom on the rare occasion will get you to buy a game at the Super Nintendo. Nice. Now there's entire sections for games of just one console. Oh yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, you put in most to your library and you still end up having a hard time to choose what to play. I know. And it's like, look, let's not beat around the bush. We know why Steam has 50,000 games, right? It's definitely not all. This is definitely a case of quantity over quality. The amount of games that are just practically shovelware, right? The amount of games that are essentially just bottom of the barrel shovelware or asset flips You know what an asset flip is? That's when you just go to the asset store, the Unity asset store. You pay for, a basic pack of stuff, and then just put it in your favorite editor of choice, probably Unity. Save, export, go. You're done. So you do have a lot of those games that are just asset flips, shovelware, that kind of stuff. It is the ease of publishing. Yeah. Do you guys remember Steam Greenlight? Holy crap. My god. The amount of trash we got from Steam Greenlight was an absolute debacle. Ooh. Because at that point, there was barely any quality control anymore. Like, you can barely call Steam Greenlight quality control. There were some good games, yeah, of course, don't get me wrong. But to be fair, you can say the same thing for the rest of the indie game industry, right? And there's really that indie game misconception about how everyone can make a game. Because that's the whole appeal of indie games, right? Anyone can make a game. Just one guy can make a game. And it'll revolutionize. It's very ideal. They would love to bring up the examples, of course, of Stardew Valley. They like to bring up the example of Minecraft. They bring up the example of Undertale. The Flappy Bird myth, yeah. But a lot of folks don't realize you're going after the unicorns. These are the exceptions. They're not the rule. But it's not gonna stop people from, trying. After all, Unity and Unreal, they have these policies in place that essentially say we're only gonna charge you for the use of our engine if your game makes over a certain amount of, revenue. So, to you, as maybe a passionate hobbyist, it comes off somewhat like riskless in the term of, riskless, quote unquote, in terms of cash, because you're not paying for the game engine. You're not paying for the, for the use of the tools. But it's also like, it is definitely a case of survivor bias, where they're definitely taking a look at the games that made it through indie development hell and think that, oh, I can do that too. I'm a guy who has a great idea for a game. I can just put it together. It's even messier now with AI art. Oh my god. Have you guys seen those videos? There were videos of 3D assets and sometimes entire levels being generated by AI at the drop of a hat. You just need to tell it, oh, I want this kind of level, right? I want it like a platformer level, give it 3 levels of height, do this, do that, you just enter this stuff, and then it generates a baseline level for you. And now people are like, oh, now it's even easier than ever for me to make a game. I have the AI tools to do it. And it's like, you're working off of an algorithm though, right? You're working off of an algorithm, but it doesn't mean that just because you can use those tools to do that, it doesn't make you necessarily a game designer, a game developer. It doesn't mean you have the sense of being able to put together a compelling environment or story for a game. That's kind of, that's where the problem really stems from. A lot of it comes from that kind of mentality, comic books in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, it's like anyone. Oh, I can illustrate my own little comic book. No, you can't. And it's like, it's that indie game misconception really that's driving a lot of people, and they will use those examples. It's not the way the world works, especially the game of publishers and the developments. Hell, even making it to Steam, even the success stories have huge asterisks on them. Cuphead is one of my favorite games to bring up for this, because Cuphead is well known, especially for the 1940s, hand-drawn art style, and the difficulty, right? And everyone's like, oh my god, Cuphead is such a novel experience. What a brilliant concept for a game. And most people don't realize that in the development of that game leading up to the release of Cuphead, some of these folks had to put their houses up again for mortgage just so they could have the money to finish the game. They risked it all. So imagine if Cuphead didn't sell. Imagine if it didn't sell the way it did. These guys would be homeless. Or at the very least, they'd be in debt, in some serious freaking debt. But people like to overlook those facts. Because it's like, oh, we can make a game too. Not quite. The question of the stream also didn't take into account the amount of, oh my god, Lux. And you and I, we are SEA crew. We know a thing or two about bootleg games, huh? Back in the days, the NES, we would get these bootleg cartridges that you'd put into an NES, and it was the funniest thing. Like 120 games in one. 120 games in one, they say. 1 in 100 cartridge, right? But there would be so many repeats of the same dang game. Sometimes they even put like complete ROM hacks, complete, games that don't exist. There was one time I was watching Cadicarus. I was watching Caddy. And he did this video. He was exploring the world of bootleg Crash Bandicoot games. It was wild. Of course, like the platforming is messed up. The music is bootleg too. They stole it from somewhere. The frame rate is ass. Granddad Flintstones. Man, we're not even thinking about the bootleg games. The bootleg Pokemon games by JonTron is on. Oh my god, that was one of my favorite JonTron videos. The bootleg Pokemon games, Pikachu's run cycle was like. It was like a 2-frame walk cycle. He just go from to and it was so poorly animated. Oh man, the games would be posing as other games just to kind of fool you into thinking that, oh my god, it's that game that I've been looking for. Man, the bootlegs on NES. Fun fact, you had a bootleg of, oh my god, you had that bootleg Pikachu. You could be the Konami and bootleg your own NES games. Oh my goodness. The early days of gaming were so wild. I mean, before we had Steam. Before we had Steam, the greatest distributor of video games was the Pirate Bay. Complete with virus. Or shareware sites. Man. That era. LimeWire. You got your games from Luffy himself. LimeWire. I got most of my music from LimeWire back in the day, before the age of Spotify. God, that is oddly nostalgic. How is LimeWire so strangely nostalgic now? When you come to think about it, like, what? Wild when you think about it. It's really wild when you think about it. And like, it sounds like a current problem, but the bootlegs were around ever since. Oh my god. But when I think about it, right, there are too many games, but I think it feels more of a quote-unquote problem a little bit more recently. Cause like, time and price are such huge factors now, right? I mean, we have a website literally called How Long to Beat. We have a website literally called How Long to Beat that tells you the average time it takes to finish a particular game. Apart from the reviews. Because people nowadays, I mean, people have always been busy in general, right? But as the good games in the industry, like now we're focusing on the good stuff, right? As they become more expensive and expansive, more in-depth, all these stories, all these things, even playing one game, just one game, is really time-consuming now. And you're feeling that more as a problem. Because here you are, with your Steam backlog of at least 100 games. You're gonna have a Steam sale. You're gonna buy more, and they're just gonna sit there in your library. You know it, I know it, we do it all the time. Halloween sale, summer sale, Christmas sale, Thanksgiving sale. Woof! Oh boy. That's where you really increase the backlog. Yeah, the Black Friday sales. Yeah. But it's like, we're thinking about it. And it's oh my god, you even have Humble Bundle. And for 3 years. Oh my gosh. I've done the Humble Bundle stuff too. I had to stop at a certain point because I was just inflating my library so much and I was not playing any of them. And then guess what my stupid ass did? It's like, oh, I have such a long backlog of games on my Steam. I wonder what to play. Oh, let me get Game Pass. Ooh, let me get myself an Xbox Game Pass account and let me just open a whole new Pandora's box of games that I will not play. I mean, look, I'm on my Steam account. The only game I've been playing recently on Steam is Street Fighter 6. I have all of these games. I've been just grinding out Street Fighter 6. those Holocure achievements, you know, those Holocure achievements, they're just sitting there. I haven't done all the achievements yet. Street Fighter 6 is calling, you know? And then there's Epic Games, yes, with their free, they offer you free games every week. I don't even remember to log into my Epic Games account. Usually. Sometimes they'll offer you some good stuff. Most of the time, stuff that kind of goes under the radar. But the one time that it's a pretty good game that they have on offer there, it's quite generous. And that's going to be added to another library. That'll just sit there. You know? Here's why, they were thinking about it. Well, some friends and I were talking. Like, Sin, isn't Xbox Game Pass, doesn't it feel like too good to be true kind of a deal? And I go, what do you mean? It's like, for literally $10 a month, 15 if you have the better plan, you get access to this entire library. I said, yeah, you do. And then they asked me, like, isn't that kind of unfair for the games? Like, isn't that good? How are they making money off of that? Da 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 da. And then I just riddle them this, right? I go, how many streaming services do you have? And how many of them are you actually maximizing? And then they're like, let me name them. You probably have Netflix. You might have Hulu. Might be bundled with an HBO Max. You could have Disney Plus. You could have, I don't know what else, right? You could have, like, what, Peacock? You could have those. How often do you really maximize your subscription to those services? Most of the time, you're just kind of quietly losing money on those things. Just kind of draining your resources, because it's easy to just say, oh, it's just $10. It's just $10 a month. That's much less than lunch. Sure, but that adds up. And in the same way, what more if it's a game? So you have to actually actively sit down and play the dang thing. It accumulates. So I'm like, you might have Game Pass, but you're not quite maximizing it the way you think you should. But it's still a good deal, because if you play a $60 game on Game Pass when it comes out on day one, you've already essentially gotten the equivalent of 6 months worth of Game Pass because you played a $60 game. So that's where those little rationalizations start playing in your head. It's like, oh, but if I play this game, I've already maximized like 6 months worth. You don't own any streaming services, Kat? Good. Stick to that. Hey, hell. That's why I think we canceled our Disney Plus subscription already. I think the only thing we have right now is like maybe Netflix and Hulu, and then the Peacock is on my account because I use it to watch WWE events. That's really all I use it for. You know? I have another question, you guys. This is something interesting. Do you have a price to content ratio? What I mean by price to content, like there are some people who say that if you're spending on a $60 game, it should have this many hours worth of content on it. some people have that. You know, some people like to use the price to content ratio. Some people say that for a $60 game, you should have like around 30 hours of gameplay on it. Meanwhile, they will some people will also use the other side. You know, how there are some indie games that are much cheaper and will get you how many hours worth of gameplay. Some roguelites and roguelikes, you can keep playing them over and over and over again. So is there that little, you know, that little ratio? But it kind of depends on the genre. I'm glad you think that way. You have Netflix and you barely use it. You need to watch the rest of Arcane before November. Yeah. It kind of depends on the genre. I mean, look. There are free-to-play games that never end. League of Legends. League is free. And if you really, really like it, it's endless hours of gameplay. So it's like, that's the ultimate value. You know? You got how many hours? Yeah, you got how many hours in HoloCure? Just getting those achievements. Yeah? You got Dota. League's free but had made you drop a little bit of money on it. You've never bought a game at $60. I am so glad that we are kindred spirits here, Victor. There is only one game I bought. There is only one game I've bought in my life that was $60 worth. And that was Kingdom Hearts 3. I swore never to buy a game at full price again. I'm talking about baseline, you know, initial release Kingdom Hearts 3. Not the one that was fixed by the DLC. But base Kingdom Hearts 3. After all those years of waiting. After all those years of waiting. I'm like, it's finally here. Let's get it. Play through it. The first few worlds were pretty fun. The gummy ship sections were kind of fun too. I really enjoyed it myself. And then we got to like, I was wondering, okay, just jumping from world to world to world to world. Where is this whole overarching story, you know, that this has all been leading up to? And it was all crammed in the last 3 hours of the game. I was not happy. I was like, I spent 60 on this? I was so annoyed. I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed. I'm not saying Kingdom Hearts 3 was a bad game. I'm saying it was a disappointing game. And then after that, of course, they announced, oh, we have DLC coming from Kingdom Hearts 3. And I'm like, oh, of course you do. And then I look up the footage of it on, you know, I refused to buy it. So I just decided to watch it on YouTube. And I said, oh, so you mean you used the DLC to fix all the problems of the base game? You son of a monkey's uncle. Ugh. You've only bought handheld disc or cartridges. The last time you bought a full price game was vanilla base Overwatch 1. But you see, even Overwatch 1 was asking you for $40. You know, $40 sounded a lot more reasonable. Overwatch 1 is its own. Overwatch 1 could really have its own dedicated podcast episode. The story of that game is too sad. All that wasted potential. All that money on the leagues, on the, you know, on the professional scene. That esports scene All fueled by corporate greed. Oh my god. Those poor players. I'll never get back that time. Yikes. Are we surprised it's Blizzard? Oh man. See, Aztec, that's the part that makes it really sad. That's the part that makes it really sad, right? It didn't used to be that way. That's the thing. Because now we can say, ha, Blizzard, lol. But before it was like, Blizzard. And then you could hear the Hallelujah chorus. Literally playing classic WoW right now. Nice. Nice. I know. The fall from grace is seriously legendary. Yeah. We could have a whole podcast dedicated to Blizzard and its games. Oh my goodness. I love that studio. They're the reason. Fun fact, they were the reason why I even got into 3D in the first place. Imagine the shock. I had already moved halfway across the world. And then they turned out to be like that. No. I don't have high hopes for Microsoft's buyout. All I'm wanting, look, Chris, all I'm hoping for with the merger is that Diablo 4 shows up on Game Pass so I don't have to buy it at full price. That's all I'm waiting for. That's all I'm wanting for. I just want Diablo 4 to show up on Game Pass and we're good. That game fell off so bad. My god. The nerfs and the patches. Yikes. Original Blizz devs are working on a new MMO. Oh. You're slowly observing how they're gonna salvage Overwatch 2. Lux, that's easy. You know how they're gonna salvage Overwatch 2? They're gonna introduce Overwatch 3. Going by their logic. I wish I was kidding. I wish I was kidding, but I can imagine a timeline where that absolutely happens, right? My god, given their track record and what's been happening, I seriously... It's like, I know that's a joke. That's a joke, but it could happen. It's terrifying. You're glad Path of Exile has taken over that genre as the game. I still like Grim Dawn, but Path of Exile 2 is looking hype. My goodness. Fun tangent that we went on. Oh man. Do you think the Activision Blizzard merge was a merge or a hostile takeover? I think it was a merger. I really do think it was a merger. It's just that as time went by, it was definitely becoming more Activision than Blizzard. Yeah. It was definitely that. Though, honestly, the dynamics of it aren't as important as what they've been doing now. You know? It's just one of those things that's just rough. Slow transition. Yeah. Because they didn't turn sour immediately. They were still pumping out some decent stuff. StarCraft 2 was great. But you know, you were going to see definitely that they were becoming a lot more corporate minded. Yeah. The big money folks were the ones making decisions. And the gamers, it really felt like a company by gamers for gamers. And the initial vision of that felt like it was really fading out, as we were going. Which was just kind of sad, really. But thankfully, because there are so many games now, you can also be like, well, there's, yes, Blizzard it's really sad what's happened to Blizzard. But at least instead of having to fixate on this game in particular, you have so many other choices. So many other cool things you can check out. Too many services. Hoping Chris will take it in the right direction. Games become more expensive, more methods of monetization will be sought after. Yeah. God. Oh, that one was painful. That one was painful. Honestly, some of the lore decisions they did in World of Warcraft was painful. Heroes of the Storm is a dead game though, Claw. I wish they revive it. That was one of the few MOBAs I was still playing. Now it's like it's just being maintained by a skeleton crew. I don't think it's even being maintained anymore. They've stopped putting out patches years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Ooh. You can play the new WoW mobile. Wow. They added a new champion for BlizzCon. Did they? Did they? Now I need to look this up. Because I didn't even bother looking up what happened at BlizzCon because they just, I have been betrayed, chat. Let me see. Doesn't seem like it. It's Overwatch. Yeah. I'm hearing the world's smallest violin from SpongeBob right now. Yeah, it did show Overwatch, unfortunately. I just checked it. Haven't even noticed a download link. Yeah. Yeah, that game had potential. It was just unfortunate. Just a little unfortunate. It was fun while it lasted. Man. Friends and I we had a pretty fun time playing that game. And then, yeah, that style of MOBA was dying out. League of Legends is still going strong though. And it's wild though, when you think about it. There are certain, when back then there was a chance that your obscure video game would be known by more people, or at least they've heard of it. But with as many games as we have now, if you bring up an obscure indie game, there's a very small chance that someone would even know what the hell you're talking about. But it's just an unfortunate thing, because when you have this many games, the games that are obscure are probably going to stay obscure because reviewers are a lot less likely to cover it. People are more likely to, talk about the things that are trending, They're going to say, maybe something like Lies of P, as a Soulsborne type game. That would get a decent amount of coverage. A lot of people in Hololive, a couple of people in Hololive are checking it out. You have, you have Armored Core. That's not even obscure. But, those are the kinds of games that people are going to be talking about. Baldur's Gate 3, Armored Core 6, We got our share of what do you call it? What is that? League of Legends and Dota all came from a mod for Warcraft 3. Oh yeah, for sure. That's why the Warcraft 3 Reforged wanted to make sure that any game you make on the World Editor is our property now, because they missed out on that sweet, sweet money. Well deserved, in my opinion. But yeah, you're not gonna see a lot of obscure games being talked about now. I mean, on Steam, I have this game on my wish list. Let me just recall what it was called. On Steam, there was this game on my wish list called... Hold on. It's called Blazing Chrome. Okay? Now, I wouldn't be surprised if none of you have heard of that game before. But it's because... It's like a Contra revival. Oh, Chris, you know it. There is hope yet. There is hope yet. Yeah, it's Contra 3-ish, right? And now, like, you also can't find originality in the industry. Everything feels like an amalgamation of older ideas. I mean, on that note, Aztec, one of our earlier podcast episodes was focusing on nostalgia, right? The problem with remakes, remasters, and how it doesn't feel like anyone's coming up with anything original anymore. Yeah. Rehashing ideas from the past is not necessarily a bad idea. No, definitely not. But you gotta execute properly. Because it's like, you rehash an existing idea, and you do it well, you get something like Lies of P. Now, if you rehash an idea from before and you do it terribly, you get the GTA trilogy. You get the remastered trilogy. Ooh. Ooh. Hollow Cure, yes, is technically a rehash of Vampire Survivors and Magic Survival. Yeah. But you do it well, you execute properly, you do it that way. Most games released are just other games' ideas put together in different ways. I mean, that's why we invent those new genres, right? Like, the whole Metroidvania thing came about from those two games, and then we realized, oh, there are so many games that like to use this format of level design, of, power progression. And we realized, okay, that's a new genre then. That is, we now have the Metroidvania genre. We now have, what do you call it? We have the Battle Royales. Hell, we were just talking about it. MOBAs. MOBAs were an invented genre too. That wasn't a big thing until Dota came into the scene, right? How does one create a new genre anymore, though? It's so rare. It is very rare. At a certain point, I think just by laws of, just by the law of, I don't even know if it has a proper name to it, but when it's essentially this theory that goes to say that if just by sheer quantity, of all the things being made, if all these games are being made, there are only so many original ideas that one can come up with. Because a lot of it, sure, they were being innovated in the past. Lots of these things, when they were still new, sure, it was still very much new. But as things go on, people are like, let's try to play it safe. The Call of Duty formula, right? When the Call of Duty formula became successful, they refused to break out of that. They stuck to the formula because it was a winning formula that worked. It got them money. It was safe. They knew what they were doing. So there was no need to innovate. Yeah, and the longer you stay into the industry, the harder it'll be to stay original. Precisely. How many, right? How many conceptual, experience style, artistic indie games can you really come up with before they start to look like each other? And then you create another new genre, right? How many combinations of musical notes and rhythms can there be before we get repeats? True. Hell, there are some bands that are you listen to one song, you've heard them all. Technically different songs, but they all sound the same. Green Day after 2000. Yeah. The 4 chord songs. Yes, Claw. Yeah, there we go. But it is the thing too, though. Like, are there too many games? Absolutely. Why is that a problem? Well, we've just laid them out. You know, too many games, it's harder to stand out. Innovation becomes a lot less. There are only so many games that you can play. You get a crazy backlog. You got all this, you know, you just don't have the time or the money to constantly get to these things. You know? And a lot of it can be quantity over quality. There you go. 50k games on Steam. Lord. Yep, oversaturation of genres. Too many games, too few games, and even then, Kla, the good games that we have, it's tough to find the time to really play and enjoy all of them. You know? It is yeah. There have always been bad games, we just have exposure to more of them fast now. Yes, and there are also a hell of a lot more bad games now too. Especially because the internet has made it so easy to access the information, and, you know, people, you know, us gamers in a certain sphere have also become a lot more aware of game development procedures, of what it takes to make a good game or a bad game. You know, there's still some hidden gems. It's just that it's tough. It's really tough to find them because they tend to stay obscure with how many games there are. Yeah. Among Us released in 2018 and exploded in popularity 2 years later. Yeah. Quality and popularity don't always go hand in hand. And sometimes, some of them are late bloomers. Some of them are wild. Some of them are just really, really bad. Just, you know, objectively terrible games. It's possible to innovate through finding an idea that didn't work from a previous game. It sounded good, but didn't go well. Now you want to fix it yourself. That is also a possibility. But when you think about it on a realistic perspective, how many times can you do that before, you know, you just make the next something else? No? Speaking of bootleg games, anyone waiting for Palworld? I saw Palworld. It looks wacky. I'm just waiting for maybe HoloMems to pick that up and do collab streams with it. I personally wouldn't play it myself. It's just a lot of wild games out there. A lot of good ones. You just don't quite have the time for it. A lot more terrible ones. Doesn't help that the games industry media loves to focus on the bad stuff, right? remember the time when Fallout 76 and Cyberpunk were just competing? Constantly competing in the headlines of the negativity. And it makes you just think, oh, all games are so terrible these days. No, 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 no. And it's like, let's not focus on those. There are still some good games that are yet to be played. So what makes it, what's the thing to chat? Because there are so many games, decent amount of good games. How do you find the good ones? Honestly, at this point, we already talked about it. We can't rely on game journalism. Talk to your friends. Talk to us on Discord. We'll talk it out. We'll tell you. We'll just tell you the realistic perspective, right? Like, if you're a fan of this kind of game, then sure, maybe you can try it out. But otherwise, maybe don't touch this game. You know? Hey. So yeah. And the thing is, the crazy thing is, it's only gonna get worse from here. It's gonna just get worse from here. The amount of games. So honestly, sometimes look, Kla, the games that holomems pick up, sometimes those end up being the deciding factor for me, right? It's like, oh, okay, they're picking that up. So I see how they play it, and I'm like, ooh, that looks like something I enjoy. And then you try it yourself, and it's like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. Suika game is... Yeah, Suika game was one of those things. Val is addicted to that game. Yeah, right? Bought Suika game because of them. And then the clips. Suika game is basically 2048. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Just in fruit form. And terrible physics. Val has had how many fruits fling off the screen? She was so mad. Hi. Suika space program. Yeah, essentially at this point, when there are just so many games out there, it really is up to you now. Just, you know what you like, so you kind of just stick to what you know, what you like. Maybe look up some gameplay. Don't even look at reviews from so-called journalists. Is that we made that a dirty word, no? The J word. Never assume a journal. I will never forget the Cuphead incident, Chris. I will never forget the Cuphead incident. You just know that Suika game took over Vizalos' life. Yep. It is what it is, right? Too many games, we make informed decisions, we back each other up. It's really the best way to go about it. Right, chat? Alrighty. We've been going for a little over an hour now, and I think that's a pretty good session, no? Think we can wrap it up there. For next time, I have it written here. The next podcast we'll be talking about the Git Good problem. I'm literally just gonna call it that. I'm just literally gonna call it that. Git Good. That is the next podcast episode. You're a game designer yourself, Kla? Nice. Really well thought out. I appreciate it. Glad you enjoyed that. Thanks for the stream. You'll rewatch the VOD for the parts you missed. Alrighty. Okay, you guys. So with that, I would say we can wrap this up. Our session is adjourned. Everybody, please take care of yourselves. Have a lovely rest of your day, afternoon, and evening. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Well, tomorrow is the weekly roundup on the reaction channel. All right? This is Senator Warchief signing out. Otsusen!